you're new here, you might not know I used to have an old channel. I had a video on how I made my anxiety jacket, but because I already made the jacket and didn't want to make another one, I just did like a talk through about it. But I wanted to remake the jacket because it's been quite some time. Also, I have an old jacket that really just needed an upgrade. So I asked you guys on my community tab here if you guys would like to see an updated video on how I made my anxiety slash wait, that was right. What the hell? Oh my god. Why do I feel like, why does this sound so wrong? My anxiety slash Virgil hoodie. Virgil. Why does that sound so wrong coming out of my mouth? It doesn't feel right. You'll get a better visual on how I made it rather than just verbal. Let's just get on to the video. So this is a jacket that I'm going to be transforming into Virgil's jacket. Now obviously his jacket is much more oversized, and that was how my original jacket was. But since that jacket, I already have this jacket, and I just want to spruce it up a bit. Plus, we have a few little things on here. I have no idea what that is. And I already have it. This is women's medium. And for the original jacket, I believe it was a men's small or medium, because in men's clothing, I'm usually small, so to have it oversized, you would want to size it up like that. But it's cosplay, and you know, whatever makes you feel comfortable. This is a jacket I'm just going to do, so yes, I realize it's tighter than his would be, but we're just gonna work with that. Now here is the plaid we're going to be using. Still to this day, I cannot find a good purple plaid without some other greens or whatever colors in there. I know there are some places online where you can make your own patterned fabric, and I know I've seen a few people on Tumblr do that to make their Virgil jackets. But this is what I prefer to do. Now, this was black and white when I got it, and what I always use to dye my fabric is Rit. I prefer the synthetic dye. I just feels like it saturates it more. I just prefer it, honestly. And obviously I already dyed the fabric, so I'm not going to show you. This is left over from when I did my Virgil and Deceit fusion fan art cosplay. So I still have a bunch of leftover. What I found with most purple dye is if you use straight from the bottle, it's going to have a very red-based purple. So if you are very picky with your colors, or you just prefer a certain shade of purple over another, if you prefer it to be more neutral based, I suggest buying some blue dye. I would suggest maybe a light blue then a dark blue, this shade of blue over this shade of blue. Thankfully, because of some of the newer episodes of Sander Sides, we are getting more and more reference photos of Virgil's jacket. I will try my best to maybe link some down below. I know I've seen a lot on more so Tumblr. Since my original video, I have got some, I believe these are called pinking shears. I feel like that's really wrong, but they have that kind of zigzag edge to them, so it helps the fabric not fray as much. It still does fray, but it's significantly less than if you just have a normal pair of scissors, I have noticed. So that's what I'm going to be using with this, because this kind of fabric sheds a lot. I use sheds. Even in my last video, I think I said the word sheds a lot too. I mean frays. It frays a lot. Also, since my original video, when I sewed on the patches, I just sewed them on down, no extra frills or anything. But since that jacket, I actually prefer folding over the edge because I don't like the fraying as much. Yes, it gives a more rough look, which I am a fan of. However, the fraying and threads of fabric getting everywhere, I am not a fan of. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And because the jacket has very defined stitch marks, you're going to be using some embroidery thread. I forget if this is actually embroidery thread. The embroidery thread that I've used before, you can basically split them into, they're made up of 6 different strings together, so you can pull them apart. This one is not exactly like that, but it's what I got right now. It will do. It's thick thread. Perfect. It's just probably going to be a bit difficult to find a needle that I have to thread it through. If you do not have embroidery thread or thick thread like this, all you have is normal thread. Right here, I just have my black ones. What I tend to do sometimes is I know it's far away and you can't see, I'll take one end and I'll string it through the needle, and I'll cut off a piece and I'll tie the two end pieces together so the thread is a bit thicker. The more pieces of thread I have through the needle, the more tangled it's going to get. So it's not going to be as thick, but if you're in a pinch or for whatever reason you can't get embroidery thread, it'll do. So before you use the embroidery thread, you just want to take normal black or purple, whatever you want, thread, and sew this on the jacket as it is. It's just going to make it more secure than if you were just to use the thick thread. And I'm also going to do the rest of the patches off camera because it's basically the same thing. Patchwork, all done. We're good to go on that. We're gonna make his symbol on the jacket. Now I believe that Thomas actually sells patches of their logos on his shop. So if you don't want to make a patch, go ahead, support Thomas, buy the patch. I'm actually probably just going to do that anyways in the future. However, this jacket is comprised of things that I already have in my possession, things I don't have to go out and buy. But this is how I usually make my patches. When I take a piece of white fabric or whatever fabric the main design is going to be comprised of. Preferably, you want a fabric that does not stretch. This one is an old t-shirt, so it does a bit. Not ideal, but I want to use up this white fabric before I cut into any fresh ones I have. And I just paint on the design. I prefer using normal acrylic paint mixed with fabric medium, or textile paint or whatever. It's also used to mix into the paint to make it so it's like machine washable. You can buy puffy paint or whatever pre-mixed fabric paint. However, every time I've done that, it's just really sheer and thick and just not as good. So here's the patch. It's for the most part dried. It's still a little bit damp, but I just want to get this over with. As you can see, I made the sides a lot thicker than it needs to be. That's because when we cut out the patch, we want to cut it, or I'm going to cut a lot closer to the design so the outline is not as thick. This will help make sure that the fabric will not fray. Alright, and there we go. Now you just want to attach it to the jacket with either hot glue, fabric fusion. You can sew it on if you'd like, even though because of the paint it's going to be just a tad bit difficult. On his actual jacket there are some white stitch marks on the cloud that matches the rest of his jacket, but I think I'm going to leave that off. I just don't want to block any of the little logo here because I think it's quite cute. Also, I totally forgot, even though I was looking at freaking reference pictures, that the inside of his hood is freaking purple. So here we have a purple. It's a different shade of purple. This is more true Virgil purple than this. But we're gonna use this. This is actually the purple from my old creativity shirt. Side story, I'm actually trying to redesign all of my sides logos, which is why I kind of cut this one up. We're basically gonna use the hood as a template, and I'm just gonna dot around it. Here's that. Woo, and there's your hood. Here, I'm actually gonna label this as back so I remember what's supposed to be sewn to what. Just to remind myself to sew this part, not this part. Also, I had a bit of seam allowance. I do not use a sewing machine, so I'm only adding a little bit of seam allowance. If you use a sewing machine, probably give it a good inch. Actually, we don't need to flip it inside out because it's gonna go in here just like that. Think of this as the corner. So we have the corner pinned, so everything else should kind of a little more easily fall into place. So what I did is I just pinned the back seam of the purple part to the back seam of the black part, and I'm just going to roughly take some black thread and sew, if I were to just sew the sides, whatever, the purple is not just gonna move freely in and out of the hood, if that makes any sense. Now I'm gonna go around the edges of the hood, and I'm going to carefully unpin each pin and fold over the edge so we don't get any fraying or anything like that, and re-pin it. So it'll have a nice clean look. Hopefully you can see from here. Pin it. Gonna do that on both sides, and I'm just gonna stick with the black thread and just sew that on crudely. What I was gonna do is I was actually just going to make a tube of freaking fabric, whatever, to make some laces for the jacket without actually buying laces. But I was at the craft store today. And you know what? This is embroidery thread. It's like 58 cents, and it was just there, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just not gonna make it more complicated for myself. Also the fact that I don't know where I could buy purple shoelaces. I know I bought some at Goodwill like years ago, but so basically what I'm gonna do with this is I'm just gonna take 3 strands and just braid. I did that before with knitting string, and now I'm just gonna do it with embroidery. So I'm just gonna make a simple braid out of these. And here is the finished jacket right here. Ba-bam. Ba-bam. And just to show you guys the hood as well. You know, purple inside. It's a small hood because it's a freaking women's hood, and they always have shitty hoods, so I'm going to insert footage of me in my Virgil cosplay. That was before I realized some missing purple bits. So the hoodie then is gonna look unfinished, but this is the finished one. So let's just pop over to past me. But here is my new jacket. Now remember, I did not make it baggy on purpose because I didn't want to get a new black jacket. You can't go wrong with purple. This seems like just really subdued considering I just posted my Remus video. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. This is like a weird fusion of Virgil, Remus, and Deceit. Especially with the hat, I feel like.